The Toronto Blue Jays have lost their second close game in a row, this time against the Boston Red Sox. But the game wasn't the underlying issue for us. It's something that goes deeper than tonight. So we'll break that down in much more in this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And another unfortunate loss, not the end of the world. It's just another game in a long season. And they're going to be back at it tomorrow with Yusei Kikuchi on the mound and going to be looking for the win. At least try to salvage a tie in this series. If not, maybe even the series win if they can go ahead and win three straight against the Red Sox. But the Jays didn't do themselves any favors today, but there was a main issue that we want to discuss.
Yeah, and like you said, it was a sloppy game today. Not the end of the world. Obviously, back-to-back losses in heartbreaking fashion after having the lead in both games is not ideal, but like you said, it's a long season, and this one stung a little bit less than yesterday's for me personally, and we have Kikuchi tomorrow. But before we do get in the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button. We're very close to 7,000. You guys have been killing it, but let's just get into the topic that we're going to be focusing on for the first bit here. We don't have any video clips for you today. Shout out Bichette, which we'll touch on later, but it's what to do with Belt slash Biggio, and mainly Brandon Belt here. I'm going to give Biggio a bit of a pass. We'll touch on him a little bit. He had a decent game today, but we're going to touch on an incident, and we're just going to get right into this incident right now. It was, I don't remember the inning it was, but regardless, the bases were loaded, and Brandon Belt was supposed to be coming up with 2 outs, and John Schneider pinch hit for Alejandro Kirk for Brandon Belt. And I just want to let your thoughts on that, and I don't know. It was just weird. He's getting paid $10 million, and he's been horrible so far, and Brandon Belt's an issue.
It was the 7th inning, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, bases loaded. You brought Brandon Belt to be that
Slugger.
right-handed pitcher masher. And okay, he's coming off knee surgery. He got a late start in spring training, but he wasn't good even before he went down in San Francisco. And maybe he's just over the hill now. Maybe this is a discussion that needs to be had because he has not looked like 2021 Brandon Belt. He hasn't even looked close to that kind of form, and he's striking out at a very alarming rate. And before he was pulled in today's contest, he was 0 for 3 with 3 strikeouts against Corey Kluber, who was barely even touching 90 miles an hour, whose stuff does not jump out at you at all. And Kluber finished his line with 7 strikeouts. 3 of those were against Brandon Belt, and I believe one of them was also against Biggio, but this is not the problem at hand right now. Brandon Belt, who was brought in to crush right-handed pitching and be the everyday DH pretty much, got lifted for Alejandro Kirk, who by all means is a much better hitter at this stage in his career than Brandon Belt is. But with the righty still on the mound, Belt got lifted in favor of Kirk, who was not in the lineup today. So I think that's an issue, and Brandon Belt is getting paid $9.4 million, I believe.
Yeah.
And if he's not even hitting his weight, then that's the issue.
Yeah, and again, this is not a hate on Alejandro Kirk at all. It's definitely the right call to pinch hit for him. He's hitting way better, but it's about the fact that we paid this guy so much money, and of course it's $10 million, and he's nowhere near his 2021 self, and he's not even as good as his last year's self, who had like a 74 OPS plus. He's not even close to that. He's just striking out at a ridiculous clip, and I don't know. It's a problem, and it's not something that cost us the game today because it was still the right call to pinch hit Alejandro Kirk. But going forward, I don't know how many at bats you need to give Brandon Belt. Any more at bats? I don't know. What do you think about how many more at bats he should get going for? We're still early in the season, but it's a problem now, and the sample size is getting bigger by the day.
I think it's a leash that has to be pretty long.
Agreed.
Just because of his pedigree in the league, and he has had a lot of success, and he can be a valuable contributor, and he's shown in the past that he is a very streaky hitter, that he has up and down months, but this has been just a continuous downward trend, and he had that very good game at Yankee Stadium. He probably went ahead and won that game for the Toronto Blue Jays. So he kind of extended his leash in a sense, but if Brandon Belt can go ahead and win you a couple games, I don't think you're complaining. But right now he's costing you because he's in the middle of that order and he's striking out of, I think, almost 50% of the time, and he's not even making contact. He's not getting deep into at bats, and he's getting hosed a little bit by the umpires. And it seems like when you are struggling, you're going up to bat and it's 0-2 already before you even blink. So it's been a tough stretch for him. I do think he'll turn it around, but maybe he's just not the same player that the Blue Jays thought they were getting. And I don't know how much longer you could keep running him out there, especially considering the struggles that Dalton Varsho is having and some other players on the roster as well. You can't have three black holes in your lineup. You got to figure something out, and you got to figure it out quickly. And I have actually have a question for you, Nick. Let's say by the trade deadline or even before that, what are some options that the Blue Jays could explore? Is it via trade? Is it in AAA waiting? What do they do here?
Yeah, and I'll throw one out there quickly. I honestly, at this point, wouldn't mind trying Spencer Horwitz. He's had a very good season in AAA. He's an older prospect. It's not like we're going to hinder his development. But maybe at the deadline, they go after someone like Jock Peterson. But I don't know. That's a conversation that we'll definitely be having to have, especially if he continues hitting this way. But overall, just, I don't know. It's the quality of the at-bats which aren't there either. He swings and misses, seems like every single time he swings the bat, and we need more quality at-bats. And Dalton Varsho at least provides
He's not even
defense.
close,
No.
man.
And Varsho at
He's
least
not
provides
even
other
close
value.
either.
Belt just provides
Yes.
nothing. He's a mediocre first baseman who just gives Vladdy off days, but some other people can do that. But we'll leave that for now. Let us know your thoughts on that in the comment section. Do you have any other quick thoughts on that before we move on to the recap?
Yeah, man, I really thought this would be the game where he could turn it around, where Dalton Varsho could turn it around. I think Varsho's close.
I think so.
He's just out in the front foot. He's gonna get there. I'm not worried about him. He's just jumpy at the plate. He doesn't look comfortable, but I'm not worried. Brandon Belt though, man, he's whiffing on 89 miles an hour, 85 miles an hour down the plate, and
Brutal.
he's not making strides. He's not making strides, and I want him to be a valuable contributor because he's been so good in the past, and he could help this Blue Jays team a lot if he is swinging the bat hot. But man, it's not very encouraging so far.
No, and we'll quickly touch on the box score here. You can see Bichette. We'll touch on in a minute, but Vladdy went 1 for 5. Chapman had he still had a good game, a bit of an off game. The offense was pretty cold tonight, and you can see there Brandon Belt 0 for 3 with nothing. He's not even walking, but we'll let harp on him. We'll leave that alone for now. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that, because it is a bit of an issue going forward. But something else that was an issue was John Snyder had a questionable decision today. Jose Berrios, rocky game for him. He looked throwing his fastball a ton in the first inning, got absolutely rocked by the lefty. He started to use his changeup more, settled down a bit. But he was getting hit hard, most of the game, and was just getting out of it with some great defensive plays by, Matt Chapman, some just Kevin Biggio even. But John Snyder left him in there. You can see 11 hits in 5 1/3 inning. And John Snyder just left him in there against lefties, even though we have Tim Meza, who, shout out to him, is having an unbelievable season so far. It's just, John Snyder's made some questionable decisions. I don't want to harp on it too much, but I don't know if you have any explanation or if you think that, I don't know. I think he left him in way too long today. You could just see he was getting hit.
Yeah, Jose Berrios, I think should have gotten pulled after the Jaron Duran home run to lead off the inning on the first
Agreed.
pitch, and it was actually a pretty good pitch. I don't know how he hit that so far
He's
to
on
center
fire.
field. It made no sense to me. He's on fire. He's
On
a
fire.
completely different player than what we saw last year after that debacle in center field that he had. But shout out to him. I mean, he beat Berrios on a very good pitch, but I think that was the end of the line there. You saw that, and then you let him face 3 more hitters. So even I can't remember who it was that hit the home run. It was his first home run of his career, by the way. And then he lets him face Reese McGuire too. So my assumption is that Eric Swanson was unavailable today, and the bullpen has been taxed. I mean, it's back-to-back extra inning games that the Toronto Blue Jays had to get through against the Mariners. The Alek Manoah start did them absolutely no favors because he went 5 innings, and then the bullpen had to piggyback him. But it's just been a rough stretch, and they've been overworked. Pop was unavailable. Jimmy
Yeah.
Garcia was probably unavailable. And by the looks of it, Eric Swanson was unavailable. So you don't let Nate Pearson go 2 innings after barely pitching since his call up to the major leagues unless your bullpen is in dire need of those innings. So I don't know how much blame we could place on John Schneider. I probably would have put Tim Meza in there a little bit earlier. I think he waited a bit too long to pull Berrios, but he earned the right to start the inning, but he left him in for way too long after that.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe, I won't harp on Schneider too much. He made some questionable things, but again, that wasn't really what lost us the game. It was a lack of a bunch of things together. And quick shout out to Nate Pearson, who did very, very good. And maybe, Eric Swanson, he maybe and probably was unavailable, or they were trying to, I guess, save him for extra innings because it was tied and he strikes out a lot of players. So you can't really play like that. And also, one more thing, I won't harp on it too much, but we got to stop putting Jordan Romano in tie games. It seems like because every time we put him in there, he blows blows, I guess, the save. It'd be considered a blown save. So I texted you at the start of the ninth inning saying that they would walk it off with a
Yeah,
home
you
run,
did.
and he did 10 seconds later, and that was obviously just a guess. But you kind of just get the feeling Jays didn't deserve to win this game at all. They did not deserve. That's 2 games in a row that
Mhm.
they've haven't deserved to win. They've just kind of thrown them away, and I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
quickly, before we wrap it up, we'll quickly touch on. That's the wrong one. We'll quickly touch on Bo Bichette here, who went 5 for 5 with 5 hits, and he's been unbelievable. He had a bit of a blunder in defense, but he didn't let it affect him. He played all right the rest of the game, but what an unbelievable game for Bo Bichette, and he is one of the best hitters the league has seen in a while.
Yeah, he's locked in at the plate right now. He's hitting missiles to all fields, and he's been so good all season. And that defensive mistake that he made, I think it was Jaron Duran that hit the ball once again.
Played back on it.
He didn't let it affect him, and it didn't affect his performance at the plate. And we've seen that in the past where Bo gets in his own head, and it affects his whole game overall. So he got that out of the way. Didn't cost the Blue Jays any runs, thankfully, and he's been solid at shortstop. I'd
He's,
like to
I
see some
agree.
more improvement as the season rolls along, but he's making the routine plays, and the way he's hitting, I guess that's all you can ask of him. You don't need him to make those exceptional plays and the diving plays. You just make the ones that you need to make. Keep yourself in the ball game, and just don't forget your bat at home either, because he is swinging a hot one right now.
Yeah, and shout out to him. And what an unfortunate loss, but we play again tomorrow. That's the good thing about baseball. And hopefully, Yusei Kikuchi, if we win tomorrow, we're set up pretty well with Manoah and Gosman against a Boston Red Sox team that hasn't been winning much. They have a great offense, like we discussed in the pregame show, but their pitching is pretty lackluster. So that'll wrap up this video. Hopefully, we can get a win tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Thanks.